But we are joined now in studio by the ANC's national spokesperson, Mr. Zizi Kodwa. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we'd just like to hear an update on perhaps what's happening with regards to the steering committee meetings. How soon can we expect press briefings for this morning? Any updates that you have for us?
Essentially, one breaking news.
Firstly, we are excited that we have come to this last day of the conference. We have no plans to be here beyond today. So I just want to make sure that there is no speculation, because there's too much speculative talk about everything. But that the conference is coming to an end today, it is a fact. We have no plans to be here beyond today. There's also a number of speculative talk about so-called 68 votes missing, recount, and so on. There's a steering committee responsible to run a conference. So if there is any matter, I would imagine a formal complaint lodged and so on, the steering committee will provide leadership on that and give a report to the plenary. Plenary is convening this morning at around 10. If there are issues there, the steering committee will present that report. At the moment, I don't think we must make speculation about this and that. We have a leadership that has been elected, led by President Ramaphosa, and that leadership stands. If there is any other issue, the steering committee will explain that issue.
Well, we had some breaking news just a few moments before you came in that the vote counting has actually been completed for the ANC-NEC. Can you confirm that for us?
Voting is done, counting is done. One of the IFS items this morning as we convene will be the announcement of the 80 additional members of the NEC that were voted throughout the night last night.
And that would be the open part of the session?
It will be an open session when the additionals are announced.
Mr. Kodwa, one of the things that's been quite prevalent during this conference is the amount of speculation, is the amount of rumor, it's the amount of misinformation that has come through. And my editor-in-chief, Mohsen Williams, yesterday was saying that he wished the ANC can conduct regular briefings so that it quashes this kind of thing. What is your response to that? Do you believe that you've done enough in that respect to make sure that we are informed at all times so we don't have to speculate?
We may not be perfect, but we seek to be perfect. I call it we are perfectly imperfect. So we have done our part, at least to make sure that we feed the beast, which is yourselves. But there may be shortcomings in that. But what we will make sure that as we do that even this morning, whilst we are in a closed session in terms of report backs from commission, time to time, when the commission is done reporting at the plenary, resolutions are adopted, there will be briefings from the policy and commissions. So there won't be a blackout. But of course, there are instances where their issues are more internal, and therefore you can't, again, just go out when you don't have information for the sake of communicating. It's better when you know that there is something, breaking news, there is something to be communicated before you go public.
Right. Well, I know that the issue has been dealt with, but just for the sake of getting it on the record from you, that there's no speculations. The issue of the attacks on journalists by security, it's been resolved, but just can we hear it from you?
It's been it was reported to us yesterday that there was an incident. We investigated that incident. We met with SANEF representatives and we resolved that issue. We did express our sincere apology in a manner, because we got all sides of the story from the police, people who were involved, and from ourselves, including the recommitment by journalists through SANEF that they will respect the rules as laid out, because this is a private meeting of the African National Congress. The rest of people are invited as guests. We set out the rules, both in terms of the media and engagement and so on. If there were any other things that the media were unhappy, we'll appreciate the feedback. If each individual media house they are not happy about, but that issue is now rested with us, and I think we have had a very good relation with the media.
And seeing that the conference is concluding today, do you think that all of the commissions will be able to actually have press briefings and give feedback? Because during the policy conference, we said that some of them didn't actually have enough time to give us feedback on their reports.
From what we understand at the moment, all commissions are ready to give a report back.
And of course, importantly, today we're expecting the incoming new president, Mr. Ramaphosa, to deliver his speech. Is he ready, and what time or more or less should we expect?
We expect him later afternoon, let's say 3 and 5, the president must close the conference. You are talking of 5,000 delegates who come from afar. People from Western Cape. It takes them 20 hours to get to Gauteng. These people have got families. Their families are missing them. They want them to join them. So we don't want to delay them much, but we can't take chances in terms of not finishing the work, what brought them here. And I think we've done very well, because you remember there were issues about time overruns. We were able, I think, to catch up with hours we lost during the first day because of credentials and other things. And we're quite satisfied that we have dealt with what was a program of this conference.
I know that we've been busy with quite a few controversies here, but one of the things is when it ends today, people are going home. And in going home, there are issues there, as we know, court challenges and disgruntlement here and there. Has there been some kind of communication with these groups on how to deal with issues when they get home? Maybe you might see we're talking maybe some cases withdrawn in the interest of organizational renewal, but what is being implemented in that respect?
You remember the call by former President Zuma. It doesn't sound okay when you say former President Zuma.
Of the ANC, of the ANC.
Still current state president.
It just sounds strange about it. One of the calls he made in the opening address was a need to discuss this issue of using courts when there are issues of dispute in the ANC. And what are the lessons? What gives rise to this? Where members, they are bold enough to stand up and say, I'm going to court. When you have sufficient internal mechanism to resolve disputes, is it because leadership does not listen to them, or it's just because of other reasons? The conference has agreed that issue, the commission must discuss and find a solution. Because there is no way that members of the organization, at the blink of an eye, when there's a dispute, even if they don't like the outcome, the first thing that they ask go to court. We can't be directed by courts. We can't criticize courts when they direct us if we are not following our own internal mechanism. In terms of the constitution, we are violating our own rules. We are not allowing those who disagree with us to participate democratically in the organization.
But how do you deal with this going forward, though? This issue of the courts sort of directing the ANC to do what it's supposed to do?
We must do what is right. Courts will direct you if you don't do what is right, if you don't implement your own organizational. We must stick with the constitution of the ANC. Do what is in the constitution, not to gatekeep, to frustrate comrades because you disagree with them, and do things that are not in the constitution of the ANC. Let's do what is right. Courts will not direct us.
And then, of course, there's a small matter of unity, and that is also fixing relations with the alliance partners. How are you seeing the alliance reconfiguring? Is the ANC going to open up on the alliance? Is the alliance going to stay the same? Because we've had analysts sitting here throughout the week talking about the alliance and how it may need reconfiguring. That you bring in other players, you know, such as maybe your Sanko, you know, and make them stronger. Bring in maybe even the guys that left COSATU and try and reach some kind of expanded situation. I wonder if that has ever been a consideration at all from your point of view.
The ANC is weaker without COSATU. The ANC is weaker without the Communist Party. The Communist Party is weaker without the ANC. COSATU is weaker without the ANC. So that relationship was not arrived at because there was some contract signed between these organizations. Were brought together by one minimum program, liberation of the people of this country. And our objective of a creation of a non-sexist, non-racial and democratic South Africa. So nobody must celebrate when the alliance relations are at all-time low. We were facing challenges. We must double our efforts to strengthen the alliance. The ANC must do its part to help COSATU. COSATU must help the ANC. The ANC must help the Communist Party. Because the intra-relations, the intra-party relations don't help. A disunited alliance does not inspire. You need an alliance that can provide strategic leadership, just not in society, but even in governance. So out of this conference, that's why we're quite happy, not only with veterans, people who criticize the leadership of the ANC, some of them said they will not attend this conference. They are here in numbers. The alliance partners are here in numbers. That gives us hope that perhaps that is a start. And we must use that in order to make sure that we foster unity of the alliance, because there is nobody who must wish that the alliance must break. The ANC is weaker without Communist Party, is weaker without COSATU.
Now, do you think that there was more focus at this conference on the elections, voting processes, irregularities, and grievances, as opposed to focusing on the policies that actually needed to be adopted?
No, there were a lot of speculative talk. Doomsayers, in fact, thought this conference would not even start. We were aware of some intentions by certain individuals, either to stall the conference on credentials. Credentials were adopted smoothly because of the diligent work done by Comrade Jesse Duarte, who was a former Deputy Secretary General, who's now a new Deputy Secretary General. And I think she did an excellent job, because credentials are not done at the conference. It's a process. They start way in terms of credentials. You must clean up credentials. At the point of presenting them, there mustn't be any doubt. There mustn't be a suspicion. that is so and so. That's why issues of replacement were not allowed, unless under very extreme circumstances. And I think she did well, because it is her work that protected this conference. Had those credentials be under questioned, the credibility of this conference would be an issue. And her commitment and the commitment of that collective was that let's do whatever we can to protect the integrity of the conference.
JC. May I ask you, you know, I'm sure you have Cyril Ramaphosa's email address directly to him. And if you were to inbox him about the organization and its issues with money, the squabbling, the courts, blah, 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 what is the first thing you would say to him?
I would give him one line: please lead the African National Congress. Be the leader of the ANC. You must lead, not only when you are leader of the ANC, is he leading members of the ANC in terms of being card-carry members. He must inspire the rest of society. You are leading society, because when we say the ANC is the leader of society, they must see in him that truly the ANC leads society.
At what point did you decide you were going to vote for him?
Well, I decided because I'm given by the internal democracy of the ANC to make choices. And I made my choice at that point, given the challenges I thought are facing the African National Congress. I thought perhaps the country, not just the ANC, I thought the country needs a serial moment.
Before you actually joined us, we were talking about the organization's ability to implement its beautiful policies. Policies have actually been applauded by even the opposition parties, but there seems to be a lot of red tape, not just in the ANC, but also in government as well. Will the ANC be able to implement its policies more effectively, more efficiently, and sort of on a deadline type of a system?
You remember a debate about the two deputy secretary generals.
Yes.
And one of the strong considerations was that we need a monitoring and evaluation department, somebody focusing on to evaluate and monitor our implementation of policies, including monitoring the performance of our cadres. Some of whom in government are doing well, some there's a rot potatoes or someone. We are not able to track unless those matters become an expose by media that so and so it's happened. There must be an early warning in the ANC. There must be a system internal in the ANC that tells us there's a red light coming, and therefore we must act, including the performance of the question you ask. To what an extent our policies are making a difference? It must be us who have that capacity internally to say this policy is not making a difference. And the only way to see a policy making a difference is to see when it changes the lives of ordinary people, particularly the poor.
Now, Mr. Kodwa, we're getting some information that Minister Jeff Radebe has said that the Electoral Commission has completed a report on the disputed votes, and he says the issue is to be dealt with at around 9 a.m. this morning. Is that correct? Will be getting a briefing, or will they address the delegates first before?
That issue must be reported at the plenary, because we are a conference, and such decisions must be reported at plenary so that we are all at ease, at one about these issues, so that there's nobody who leaves this conference with some doubts that there was irregularities, some people felt that they were not denied their right to vote and so on. So if there is any decision taken, the Electoral Commission would have reported to the steering committee will report it politically to the conference.
Can you give us an estimate in time-wise regarding when the open plenary session will actually
take place? We wanted the conference, at least our plan is that the plenary must convene at 10, and the rest of items will follow after that.
Yesterday you tweeted, before I let you go, you tweeted that a good dancer knows when to quit the stage. What was that about?
The question was asked whether I'm coming back or not as a spokesperson, and that was my answer. The others were praying that why you're not coming back. I said no, and which I will repeat now. A good dancer knows when to leave the stage. When do you leave the stage as a good dancer? When you get off the stage, the audience gives you a standing ovation, and they shout, "We want more. Don't come back." That is the time that the good dancer must leave. Even on leadership, you must leave the stage as a leader when people still want you. Because there will be a moment where they will chase you out of stage.
So if I can ask, what is next for the good dancer, Mr. Zizi Kodwa?
The good dancer, if the delegates so foresee here, they decided I'll be part of that collective, I'll remain a member of the Rivonia branch where I am active at, and I think privately there may be things that I'm considering to do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. That was the outgoing ANC National Spokesperson, Mr. Zizi Kodwa.